Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Observable will not return anything if there is no change in the data, and
Yeah.
if there is any change, it will return something.
Yes. It will let you know that it has. I mean, there was change in data.
Okay, so that is the main purpose that they are used for.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
So of
ma'am.
course you'll have to import them. Okay. So first thing in where you have imported can activate, you also have to import activated route snapshot and router state snapshot.
Okay. So there is a separate line added for the things below my line where I written can activate. So I have to delete that and just copy it over.
Yeah. Yeah. You write it like this.
Okay. Why they? I mean, like the thing is
Your
copying.
IDE is adding it.
Okay. Yes.
And as you can see, both observable and promise will be true or false. So if there is a change in data, observable will be true, otherwise it will be false. And if the task is completed, promise will be true, otherwise it will be false.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now I will import observable as well.
Okay. Done, ma'am.
Okay.
Wait. Okay.
So I have created a service which will tell me whether the task is completed or not. Now, what I'll do is in your app folder, create another file. Okay. And this time, name it auth.service.ts. Don't worry, when we are done writing, I'll explain the entire thing once again.
Sure. Yes. Dot service inside app folder auth dot
Yes,
service dot t.
correct.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Now here also we will create a class of service. Okay, and I am going to create a variable called logged in, and I'm marking it as false.
नहीं नहीं. Okay.
Okay, now there is this function is authenticated, which checks whether a user is logged in or not. So I'll create a login function, and if someone calls this login function, then logged in becomes true. When someone calls the logout function, the variable will become false.
Function. True. Okay. What function? This dot log login is equal to okay. This in here, this is what login.
Yeah, I mean, what I've done is I have created a variable,
Okay.
marked it as false, and then
Yes.
when someone calls the login function, that variable becomes true. When someone calls the logout function, that variable becomes false.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Still login and logout and red in color. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm able to see login and logout underline with red colors. Is there something that still needs to be written? Might be.
No, I mean, yeah, but then shouldn't be throwing an error.
For me too, it's showing.
What is the error?
It says cannot find the name login. Cannot find the name login. Cannot find the name logout.
Okay. Okay. Let's write the entire code and then we will see.
Okay. Okay.
Now, here what I'll do is I'll create another constant called promise. So I'm basically creating an object of promise class.
And promise is a keyword or it's
It's a class. It's a class.
in previous TS file we write promise as some.
No, there also we are creating a class. I mean, we are basically saying of that object will be of type promise.
Okay. Yes. 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 Control S saved.
Okay, wait, it's not finished.
Yeah, no.
No. Resolve, reject. So promise can either resolve or reject. That means if the task is completed, it will be resolved. If the task is not completed, it will be reject. line in a minute.
Is that pointing? What does that arrow means? Is it pointing to some function?
No, no, no. Whatever result takes place,
Yes.
that result will determine this. So if it resolves, then it will go here. It's like that. Whatever value out of these two will one of these value will be taken to this step.
Okay. So yeah. Set timeout. Okay. Timeout.
Done writing.
Yes, I'm about to do. I mean, like it's
Yeah, yeah,
just
sure.
give me some. Yeah, done. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Okay,
I don't have a. Yep.
fine. So I will come to this. Let's first write the entire code. Now go to your auth card service.ts, and here, if you remember, if I want to use this in other service as well, I need to write injectable over here. Remember this? If you want to use one service into another, injectable should be written. So
Okay.
I will import this.
Injectable should be imported. What does injectable does? Is there something? It's able to inject that thing.
No. If you don't have injectable decorator over here, then
Yes.
this service, this is also a service, and auth dot service.ts is also a service, right? If I want to
Yes.
use one service into another, then this injectable has to be added. Only then
So
I
now,
can use it.
now what we are doing is we are trying to implement auth.quad.service to auth.service.ts. We are adding this auth quad to auth service,
No, it's
right?
opposite. We want to add auth dot service in auth card service.
We want to add auth.service to
Auth,
auth.quad.service.
yes.
Okay.
Okay. So in auth service, what I'm doing is, first of all, I have created a variable and called logged in and marked as false. Now, whenever this is authenticated function is called, if the user is calling login function, then the logged in value will become true. If he's calling the logout function, it will become false. Now, there is another constant called promise, which is an object of promise class. Now, here I'm saying that first of all, the set timeout means I am setting up a
Specific time for this.
yes, specific time for this thing to happen. So this is 800 milliseconds.
Okay.
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 And I'm saying if the promise gets resolved, then user is whatever the value of logged in is, that will get passed. That means if it's false, then I'll say that user is not logged in. If the value of logged in is true, then the promise will be true.
Written promise. So, I mean, like, if
Promise
else
will return true or false. Okay.
I can see if an else condition is written here,
No.
how
It's not like that. So this, you see, this return promise will return true and false. Now, based on this value, it will decide whether it's true or false. If the logged in value is true, the promise value will be true. If the logged in value is false, the promise value will also be false.
okay. Okay. Can I have how the flow of the program goes in here? It's sorry.
First, the value of logged in is decided whether it's true or false based on login or logout, whatever function was called.
Yes.
Once that is done,
It will be passed to
to
promise.
promise.
Which
based
promise?
this
The
one.
constant.
Yes.
Okay, the first promise it will pass, and then, sorry, can you please proceed?
Yeah, yeah. So based on that promise, it will decide whether it's true or false, and that value gets returned. Okay. Now I'm
Okay.
going to use this function in my authguard.service.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So in authguard.service inside the class itself, what I'll do is I will create a constructor.
Create a constructor.
To create, if you remember, how do we use one service into another? We create the object of that class, right? So we create object of auth service. This is how we use it, right? If we have to use any function present inside the service, I will first create an object of this class and then object dot the function name, correct?
So, as you said, if you want to use the service inside another, we use injectable, as you said, right? So
Yeah.
that is different.
No, injectable has to be added if to allow one service to enter another. That is the
Okay.
permission.
Okay. And
This is to access.
this,
When we studied about services, we studied this, right? How do you access service in a component or a service? By creating object of that.
okay. And auth service is one object.
Yes, which I'll have to import here.
Okay. So use one service inside another service. We have to define it inside constructor, and then we can call it in other service as well. Previous,
I'm sorry.
right? If you want to access one service inside another, we have to define it inside one constructor as the line number 13, and then we
Mm-hmm.
import it in auth service
Yeah.
and the path where we wanted to use it.
No, no. From and the path from where this auth service is getting imported.
Imported. Okay. I mean from. Okay. 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 Sorry. Just give me some time. I'll just note it
Yeah.
down.